Welcome back, smart guys and smart gals. CJ the Smart Guy with you, and this episode is going to be very fun. This episode is called We Off the Couch, my first full marathon. Look, 26.2 miles running is no joke, and I did it. I feel accomplished. I feel amazing. I've got to give a huge shout out to We Off the Couch. That is the run organization that I've been running with based in Richmond, Virginia for the whole 2023 off and on. You know, I travel a lot, so I'm not able to make every single training. But when I'm in Richmond, I'm able to be there because, you know, I'm in DC a lot. I'm in, Atlanta, Houston, Dallas. I'm all over the place. But when I'm in Richmond, I always got to come to We Off the Couch. And they inspired me so much that when I travel to other places, I start running all around the country. So big kudos to We Off the Couch. And yeah, I finished my first marathon. So let me give you some background about We Off the Couch. It is a nonprofit organization run by Anthony and Tara Clary. Anthony, we call him Rock. So if you hear me say Rock, I'm talking about Anthony. And in efforts to encourage people of all fitness levels to participate, they believe that there's no such thing as a runner's body or that your pace really matters. When we go running, they always make sure that they wait for everybody. So like we'll maybe run a mile and we'll wait for people to catch up to get to the front. And some of the people who got there really quickly, the really fast people, they'll start running back to encourage the people to run to the forward as well. So it's a very, very community-based type of environment. And they believe that the barriers to access are real. And part of their mission is to raise funds for race entries and the cost of living shoes on a quarterly basis. Because, look, I didn't realize how quickly shoes go out when you're running all these miles. Like, they can go out very quickly. Me, myself, man, I need to get a new pair of shoes after my marathon because my ankle started hurting. I started feeling the pavement with my feet. So you definitely want to get some shoes quarterly. And everybody should have the ability to run no matter their circumstance. All paces are welcome. And they encourage all people to hop off the couch and get moving. They desire to build a community and camaraderie around total health, fitness, and running, and aspire to create a welcoming environment that thrives on teamwork and fun. And sure enough, they have done all of that. The community is fantastic. I had joined sometime in like early February. I had just got to my other apartment in Richmond, Virginia. And when I got there, I was swimming. I was exhausted. I was in the car just chilling. And out of nowhere, I saw this bald head dude just running up and down this hill, yelling, "We off the couch." And I was like, what the heck is going on? A bunch of black people running at night, running up hills, yelling and screaming. What is this? And so I walked over and I'd asked, at the time I didn't know who he was, but I'd asked Anthony Rock, what is this? And he explained it's a run group that they run on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Check out the Instagram at We Off the Couch. I did that, joined up, and man, it was my road to recovery. We Off the Couch started during COVID time. I was personally in Houston most of the time during COVID. I was traveling on tour, teaching people about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, but I was in Houston most of the time. And I gained 50 pounds during COVID because I was trying to not catch COVID to pass it to somebody else. Personally, I didn't care about me catching it. I was never scared whatsoever of the virus, but I was very nervous about catching it, being asymptomatic, and passing it on to other people, which they could pass it on to other people and, possibly have some grandparents killed or anything like that, because I heard stories about that. So I was very cautious. They had closed down the gyms. They closed down the yoga spots. They closed down my salsa dancing. And they took the rims off the basketball hoops from outside. And so most of the outlets that I used to de-stress myself were gone. And so simultaneously in Richmond, Virginia, Rock was creating this run group. At first it was called Run with Rock and Run with Terror, but that was great. It created a sense of community and people started coming out, running with him. He had started running because he was pre-diabetic and he had to lose 100 pounds, which he did. So big kudos to Rock for losing those 100 pounds. And me, myself, when I got here to Richmond, Virginia, I have lost about 28 of those 50 pounds that I gained. I believe that a lot of the weight that I have not been able to lose is due in part to me gaining muscle because I've gotten into weight training again. And so I'm starting to gain muscle mass, and muscle mass weighs more than fat. So I have to double check on my percentages, not sure. I just wanted to give a huge kudos to Rock for making that happen. I know in Houston, Texas, we have a guy named Jay Roll who has done similar things where he started creating workout groups at the park. It's called Row Effect. And every Tuesday and Thursday, they go out there around 6, 7 o'clock to be able to work out right at Herman Park. And so I was in Houston doing the workouts with J. Roll, and simultaneously Rock in Richmond, Virginia was creating a run group. It's great how synchronicity works. Smart-minded people think alike, and leaders always rise to the top. So big shout outs to Rock and his wife Tara, as well as big shout outs to J. Roll. I appreciate both of y'all helping me on my fitness journey. And so now let's get to my first marathon. Like, man, it was amazing. Once again, I said I learned about We Off the Couch by them just running past my apartment screaming. And the guy who was running up the hill, his name wound up being Tim. So big shout outs to Tim, man. Your energy helped bring me in, and you've given me guidance throughout the entire time on my marathons, my half marathons. Man, big shout outs to Tim, man. I love you, bro. Like, keep it up. Tim is a little older, and he's out here running half marathons like it's nothing. And he's run a full marathon. Man, dude is awesome. So big shout outs to Tim. And within about a week of me working with We Off the Couch, I saw that they was on the news. And I was like, whoa, this run group's already on the news? Like, what is this? Because I had just joined to get back in shape. I had joined just to, run a little bit. I hadn't run heavy since I left corporate America when I was like 26 years old. So it was about 7-8 years that I had actually been consistently running. And so I was struggling just to get 1 or 2 or 3 miles in. Like, it was difficult. Like, my legs were heavy. I was 195, just struggling. And so seeing that they was on the news, I was like, oh, this is bigger than what I was thinking it was. But I was still relatively quiet because I wasn't thinking about community at the time. I was just thinking about I got to get back in shape. And I ran my first little race called Ragnar Trail Run. It's about a 5K, which is approximately 3 miles. And I got through that. I was proud of myself. I was like, okay, you can do it. Even though I was kind of weirded out because I was like, man, I used to run half marathons. I ran 2 half marathons when I was like 25, 26 years old. And I was struggling running, a 5K. That's the difference between 13.1 miles and 3 miles. And I'm like, okay, I know I got some work to do. And as time went on, I'm still working with them. There was a girl named Ashley. She ran her marathon at Shamrock. And I was like, what? I didn't know that black girls run marathons that aren't African. I know that sounds crazy to me now because I'm seeing all these black women doing this. But at the time, I was like, I had no idea that black girls ran full marathons if they weren't from Africa. Kenyans, they be running like all day long, especially like if you watch like the televised marathons, like the Boston Marathon. Most of them are coming from Kenya. So there's not too many black women from America that are running these marathons, at least that you don't see televised. And so big shout outs to Ashley. She inspired me. I was like, wow, black girls run marathons. And so that helped contribute to me desiring to keeping up the running and to increase my distance. So big shout outs to Ashley for that. But then, it's tax season. I'm a CPA. And so right around that March, April time, I had to more focus on taxes. Big shout outs to Lauren. Lauren helped create my vegan meals because during tax season, it's very difficult for me to cook. And the time it takes for me to go out to get food is too much. And then just having DoorDash delivered, you don't know what the type of healthy food that you're eating. You don't know if it is healthy. You don't know what the DoorDash people did to it. And so big shout outs to Lauren because she prepared meals for me. And every year, right around tax season, March, April, I'll be reaching out to her. Hey, can I get some pre-made meals? And it's on point. The cost was good. The taste was good. The health was good. And helps me focus on my tax season. So big shouts to Lauren for that. And then right as tax season was ending, the We Off the Couch group, they went to the Boston Marathon. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go because it's tax season and I have to stay focused. So the next big event I went with them was the health retreat with the hospitals. And it was really interesting, seeing how the community was interacting with the hospitals. I believe that they were trying to connect the two because mental health is important, physical health is important, and to keep an overall balanced lifestyle is important. But once again, I really wasn't thinking about community yet. I was more focused on just staying healthy, getting back into shape. And so they had like little workouts at the event, and I was just grateful for that. And so the next event was the Richmond Runway 2.5 miler. This is when I realized that this thing was like really growing. And this was like my first like, oh, this community is something. Like I didn't really realize it until the Richmond Raceway. And so we went out there onto the actual racetrack in Richmond, Virginia. And, I'm used to seeing NASCAR on TV with the cars, but I'm not used to actually being on the track itself. And so we ran a 2.5 miler. It was a great experience. I got to meet some people, and I was like, wow, this community is actually really awesome. And the content that was created, Rock was speaking. I was like, man, this is bigger than what I first thought. And the next event was Rock's 40th birthday. And this is when it got really crazy, because I went to that. I was thinking, well, I don't really know him like that, but I'm going to go out to support. And it was pretty much all the We Off the Couch people were there. It was like a full club. It was big. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, the support is really crazy. And I liked it. But there was one speech that really did it for me. It was a girl named Sydney. And she was talking about that she was an unmarried woman. And she was grateful to Rock for creating men to become disciplined and understand what being a man is and to grow in being a man. And when she said that, on the inside, I started getting a little emotional. I was like, man, she doesn't even realize she's talking about me. Because here I am, like, in a brand new city. I travel a lot, but I'm in a brand new city. And I'm like, whoa, this discipline from getting back to recovering. I used to be very physically disciplined before COVID. I was in shape before COVID, but that was over 2 years ago, bro. Like, you need to get back to it, and not just the physical side, but the mental side. When you run and you work out, there's a mental discipline that you obtain because you are forcing weakness out of your body, and the amount of focus it takes to be able to continue running, to continue lifting weights, whatever the discipline is, it creates a massive amount of discipline. And I didn't realize how undisciplined I'd gotten with my eating habits and all of those types of things. And so when Sydney was talking about Rock was creating men, I was like, yeah, you're right. And that was really when I started getting in line. I was like, you know what? She's right. He's doing this on point. Not only is Rock creating this nonprofit of running, but he's working for a nonprofit and advocating for mental health and some personal things that he's working with as well. So, man, big shout outs to Rock, man. That's a real man. He's providing, he's servicing, he's taking care of the community, taking care of his family. And I appreciate him. I look up to him as a mentor at this point. And, I'm very, very, very selective with who I follow in terms of like mentorship, because some people lead you down the wrong path. But shout outs to Rock, leading us all towards the correct way, getting us into shape, creating this community for us. Lots of respect. And so shout outs to Sydney for pointing that out to me, because that speech changed my life right on the spot. And after that, my next step was my first half marathon in 8 years, ran in DC. That was fantastic. After that, I run the Richmond 1619, which is in Richmond, Virginia, where, if you don't know, Richmond, Virginia was like the slave trade capital of the country. It doesn't feel like that. I think Richmond feels like completely diverse and happy-go-lucky compared to, some places in Texas I've been to, compared to some places in California I've been to. I've traveled around the country, some places in Tennessee, Mississippi. To me, that feel way worse. What I love about Richmond is that the people communicate, whether they're racist, whether they love you, they will communicate with you. And most don't want war, I believe, because the war was actually fought in Virginia. So it's more of a pride thing. They'll look at their ancestors and be like, well, my great great grandfather was part of the Confederacy, and they have pride in that, but they don't really want war because maybe their great great grandfather died in that war. And so I haven't had any real issues in terms of race. I love Richmond, Virginia for that. But Richmond 1619 takes you through the history of the slave trade. Like, you're actually running on slave trails and things of that nature. So it was a great experience. And then through that experience, I got to meet the Well Collective. That's like a community-based wellness center that I get my massages from. Big shout outs to Key Run and to Kep. Man, they are changing my life in terms like mental and physical health when they give me these massages and talk with me. It's like a really great community to get involved with. And so I've gotten involved with the community very much in Richmond, way more than any other city that I've been to. So shout outs to Rock, shout outs to Well Collective, shout outs to Richmond 1619. And after Richmond 1619, I ran when I was in DC because I was going to the Black Blockchain Summit. Ran like 6 miles before I presented. Then early in the morning, drove to Richmond because I ran 15 miles that very next day. And at that point, I realized, man, you are increasing your stamina, because before I could barely run 1, 2, or 3 miles. And now I'm out here killing it. 6 miles in the rain. The next day I'm running 15 miles. But that was when my knees started hurting. And so I had to make a decision. Do I keep training for a full marathon, or do I move back to a half marathon, or do I just take some time off and still try to do the full? I decided on the latter. I said, look, I'm going to take these 2.5 weeks off. I'm going to strengthen certain muscles, specifically the gluteus medius and gluteus minimus, because that's what creates the IT band issues and the knee problems. So I'm going to strengthen those, lots of clamshells, lots of front squats. And so I focused on that for 2.5 weeks, came back to the group, and understand that 15 miles was the longest I've ever ran in my life. But a few weeks later, we had carb night, which is where we eat a whole bunch of carbs to be able to build up for the marathon. It was a great event. I thought we were just going to be eating. I didn't realize it was going to be a whole ceremony. Big shout outs to Shun. Man, you're seen, you're loved. She's been doing great things. Shout outs to Masu, who through Instagram has been showing me different techniques on how to run, because obviously I was doing something wrong. My knees were hurting. So a lot of that comes with technique. There's a lot of shout outs. It's too many to really go through. Also shout outs to Erica. She's got this video on Instagram that helped me during the race. She was like, I can do hard things despite what anybody tells me. And it was just an inspirational video because she's just running and you could tell she's tired. And, you know, it was just a lot of emotions in that carb night. And I'm grateful for it. They gave out awards. We got to eat. It was like a preparation for this big first marathon I was about to run, because a lot of people were running their first marathons. And so came run day on Saturday and it was like, let's go. And I started off running. The first 4 miles were a breeze. I started off around a 13 pace mile. I was just chilling. I knew I had to conserve energy. The next 4, I accidentally increased my pace. I wasn't trying to increase my pace, but I just felt good. And I'm used to increasing my pace as I'm running. But once again, I never ran more than 15. Then from 8 to 13.1, that's when my knees started to hurt, but it wasn't a big deal. Like, I was able to get through. Big shout outs to Austin Butler. He was a paraplegic with 2 prosthetic legs, and he was trotting the marathon. Big shout outs to him, man. I could just imagine running a marathon without real legs, using metal legs. Like, that's big, and just the determination to keep running, man. There's a lot of stories. There was also a young couple where the girl was crying around mile 6 or 7, and her boyfriend or husband, I'm not sure their relationship, but he just kept encouraging her, and they wound up finishing the marathon also. So as you're running with these people, you're actually creating like a community with these people as you're just running, because some people pass you, you pass them back, they pass you back. It's just back and forth, and you get to see a lot of really inspiring things along the way. It's not just about running. And that's what I'm learning from We Off the Couch. That's what I'm learning from these marathons, is community is really important. It's a support system that I didn't even realize that I needed. And so, man, as I'm running, I get past halfway mark and it starts to get hot. The sun comes out. Shout outs to Sierra. She's riding around on the bike and she says, "What do you need, CJ?" And I'm like, "Okay, bet. Here, I need my jacket taken off because it's hot and I don't want to keep carrying it." So she picks up my jacket. She comes through. She also gives me some body armor, which is like Gatorade drink, helps me through. Daryl, he's riding around on his bike. He's asking me, "What do you need, man?" He gives me some salt tabs. There were coaches out there, because I'll tell you this, after mile 16, those knees started hurting a little bit more. My hips started tightening up a little more. The crazy thing is I wasn't tired at all, but the pain that starts to accrue gets to be real. And also shout outs to the Metro DC Galloway Marathon Training Program. As I was running, there was a moment where my knees were hurting so bad that I was like, well, how am I going to keep up my pace? How am I going to finish this with my knees hurting? And so there was a young lady named Diane, and she was just calling out, "Run, walk, run, walk." Every 30 seconds they would run, and then for 30 seconds they would walk. And it was maybe like 6 or 7 of them. And I was like, "Oh, can I run with y'all?" And they were like, "Yeah, the more the merrier." And so I ran with them probably for like 6 miles, just going back and forth between running and walking. But once I started getting to that mile 22, man, woof, my knees were killing it. And I was like, oh no, this is a terrible feeling. And right around that time period, there was a guy out there with a microphone, and he started asking us, why are you doing this? And so somebody was said for their pregnant wife. Somebody else was like, for my health. And he came up to me, asked me, and all I could say was the marathon continues. And I don't think anybody else really understood what that meant, but I understood what it meant. My mentor, Nipsey Hussle, we were working at a Vector 90 back in LA in 2018 while I was studying for my CPA exam. Not only was he my favorite rapper since '08, but I saw him as a mentor as well. And I was working towards becoming his CPA, his accountant. Never happened, never got the sign off because I passed my CPA exam February 2019 and he passed away March 2019. So I never got the sign off. But all he ever talked about was marathon running, from the marathon continues to the marathon mixtapes to also talking about life is a marathon, not a sprint. And you got to pace yourself. It's all about your breathing. So there were a lot of metaphors for marathon running to life. And back in 2016, when I had ran, 2013, 14, 15, 16, when I was running those half marathons and things of that nature, all I could think about was the marathon continues, the marathon. And that's what inspired me to originally run in the first place, because I was working in corporate America and I was stressed out and I was like, I got to start running. And so just thinking about marathons, that got me going. And so as I'm running on mile 22, I'm in pain. He asked me what I did it for. I just said the marathon continues. And that's when it became emotional. And I was like, oh man, look, I got to stay focused. And the pain was real. My pace dropped down completely. I started running like maybe close to a 20-minute mile, as like I had to walk a lot of it. I had to basically limp some of it. And people were coming up, do you need any help? Do you need anything? And it was just an amazing experience. People were so helpful. And then you start getting towards the finish line. You get towards that last mile. It was mostly downhill. And you would think that running downhill would be easier, but it's actually harder when your knees are hurting, because if you aren't careful, you will overextend and blow out your knees or fall to the ground. So I had to lean back, tighten my core, and do a tight jog. And as I'm getting to the end, I hear Eric, I hear Shun screaming me on. Shun over here telling me, you got to run faster, CJ. I'm ignoring it. I'm hearing Erica. She starts to squeak as she's, cheering me on. It was a great moment. I get to the end and finally done 26.2 miles. And man, my knees were hurting really bad. Shout outs to Stacy helping me get my blanket. Shout outs to my Aunt Terry. She came through and supported me. Shout outs to my friend Swanee. She came through, made a sign. Man, it was just a great experience. After the marathon, we all gathered together to celebrate as a group. That was a fantastic experience as well. But it's funny, right? So if you read the Bible, it talks about how Jesus was fasting for like 40 days, 40 nights, and he was weak. And that was when the devil tested him. And so as I was getting out my Uber car when I went back home, I accidentally left my phone on the top of the car because I was tired, I was in pain. So in order for me to get out the car, I had to put the phone at the top of the vehicle, and I left it and it went away. And so I was kind of frustrated, but I stayed very calm. I stayed very relaxed. And in the morning, I wound up finding the phone using Find My iPhone. I had a great interaction with the VCU police. If you know anything about me historically, I've had issues with the police. In this situation, the police were absolutely fantastic. I wanted to make sure that when I knocked at somebody's door, that they weren't going to blast me or be upset or anything like that. So I just asked them to be there as peacemakers. I knew that my phone wasn't stolen. I knew that I had left it, but I had tracked it using Find My iPhone. And so I saw it was at this apartment. And so I got my phone back, I retrieved it. I stayed calm. I didn't get upset, didn't get angry. I had to change my tire because I had a flat tire. I put on a donut. The donut wound up getting flat. Had to take that to the tire store, got a new tire. Went with my Aunt Terry. She provided me some lunch. And the entire time I was just thanking God. I was grateful. Not only did I get through my marathon, but I also feel like I passed my spiritual test. And man, it's been quite a journey. 2 days later, I went to the Well Collective, got me a 2-hour massage. Shout outs to Kep. And I actually don't feel too much pain, hardly at all anymore. It only took me 2 or 3 days to recover. So I'm in a great mood. I'm feeling great. Shout outs to We Off the Couch. Shout outs to the Richmond Marathon, had me going. Man, shout outs to running as a whole. And yeah, the marathon continues. CJ the Smart Guy, I'm out. Deuce. Oh, Nah, I'm not out yet. I want to formally challenge my little cousin, Brittany Watts of Watts Elite, to running her first marathon, a first full marathon. Back in the day, I would say in 2018 when I was studying for my CPA exam, we ran maybe 10 miles and she smoked me really, 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 really bad. Like really bad, like terribly bad. And then I went to work out with her in New York City and she tore me up in the Tone House gym, not knowing that she trains Hall of Fame athletes like Alex Rodriguez, Hall of Fame baseball player. Her boyfriend is a trainer and they're both models and she does this for a living and she tore me up, but she's never run a full marathon. So this is a formal challenge to my little cousin, Brittany Watts. You got to go get it. We off the couch. I'm out. Deuce.